Hey everybody, welcome to your nutrition class. My name is Dr. Kaylee and I am so super excited for you. This is my most favorite talk that I give. I've been giving this talk for about 8 years now, and I've seen it transform people's lives. I just want to first welcome you to this, just ask you to be fully engaged, get a notebook, get a pen, and take some notes. My promise for you today is that I am going to overwhelm you with all of the things that I'm going to tell you tonight. You're probably by the end of it going to say, what the heck? She just took away all of my food and what am I supposed to be eating? I just want to let you know, as you're taking notes, what I've seen be successful for people is they just put a star next to the thing that they know that they can implement tomorrow. Something that they can implement with their family, with themselves, with the people that they love on their way to work. Because I know that if you take action immediately, that's when we're going to see the best results. So turn off any distractions that are around you. Shut off your phone, shut off the TV, shut off the stuff behind you, lock your kids in a closet, and pay super, super good attention because I promise you, you are in for an amazing, amazing treat. Before we go into all of this stuff, if you know anything about me, you know I'm a chiropractor. If you're a patient in my office, you know that this is the number one topic that we talk about, and it is chiropractic. With our patients in our office, we take about a month of time before we dive into the nutrition topic too heavily, just because we don't want to bombard you with too many things to be doing. We don't want you to become too overwhelmed. But also, we want to make sure that you understand how your body truly works. Because if your body is not functioning and healing the way that God designed it to, then the supplements that I give you, the food that you're eating, the things that you're doing aren't going to make too much of a difference because your body's not able to absorb the nutrients that it's giving. So we know that God put an amazing healing power in your brain. It's there every single second of every single day. Your body is healing and functioning because of the power that's in your body. The reason why we take x-rays when you come in is because we want to make sure that there's no interference from your brain, down your spinal cord, through your nerves to every single organ, cell, and tissue in your body. Once we start to remove that interference, start clearing the nervous system, getting your body back to a healing state, that's when we start to see people really be able to digest their food properly and absorb the nutrients that we have. We've got to drive down inflammation first as well. So we know, just like this slide says, that all healing comes from your brain. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that as we go along. But I want to make sure that we grasp that before anything else. Another big thing that I want to talk about today is that our health depends on our choices. We like to sometimes kind of put our health into the hands of our insurance cards, the hands of, right now, our government, the hands of everybody else around us. But the reality is that your health depends upon your choices. And so the choices that you're making now are going to be directly reflected in your health 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And so there's no excuses, right? So if you're watching this is your time to make that line in the sand and say, never again, my health is a priority and I'm going to make a difference. The reason why this whole entire talk started is because about 9 years ago, my best friend, my mom, had been dealing with a lot of different health issues that we just couldn't figure out. She would have rashes underneath her chin, under her armpits, under her eyes. They'd swell up. Digestive system just was not okay. And there would be days where we would go all the fad diets. We would get into the paleo diet. We would get into the keto diet. We would get into even some of the other things that we're doing here in our office. And nothing was working. She'd be okay for a few days, and then everything would come back, and she'd be miserable. I remember the day she sent me a text message with a few different pictures in there, and you can see the swelling around her face, underneath her chin, in her armpits even. You can see just the pain that she's living in. Those pictures were taken in the summertime. And my mom's the type of person that is outside all the time. She's in her garden. She was outside doing all the things. They do the flowers and the pond and all the things in the sunshine, laying in the pool. These pictures, when they were sent to me, was in the summertime. And she's like, Kaylee, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm scared. We've got to find an answer. And that's where I went from Dr. Kaylee to daughter Kaylee, and I had to really start figuring out what's it going to be that's going to save my mom's life. And so I got outside of my brain. I actually ended up sending her to the urgent care because I wanted to get blood work done. And so we spent a couple $1,000s, a long time period waiting to get the test, then waiting to get the results, all for the results to come back as everything is within normal limits. Not one thing was wrong. She's totally fine according to the labs. And obviously, if you look at her, you can see that there is so many things that are going wrong. And so I had to seek out different testing, different labs. And we're going to talk about what I found at the end of this talk. But most importantly is that her misery turned into my mission. Because we ended up finding a raw food diet. We ended up going completely vegan raw food. I'm not here to tell anybody to go vegan. I'm not here to tell anybody to go raw food. I just know that through this journey, I figured out what the power of nutrition was. What really, if you start feeding your body really good, nutritious food, how it responds and wants to heal. The reality is that your body wants to heal, and we've got to give it the tools to go ahead and do that. And so we're going to dive into first the mindset behind it, because if we don't figure out what our mindset is, we're always going to have issues and struggles along with this. I really truly think that nutrition and food are people's biggest setbacks. We've got people that are addicted to food. It's just like any other drug. We've got addictions going on when it comes to food. There's an emotional tie to food. You get that euphoric feeling when you're eating something. If you've got a breakup, eat the ice cream. If you've got a celebration, eat the ice cream. If you've got something going on at work, if you're stressed out, if your family's not going okay, eat the ice cream, eat the junk food, and it makes you just feel better, at least in that moment. But the reality is that's not building health. It's not helping your stress. It's not helping your emotions. It's not helping your marital issues. It's not helping your job issues. It's not helping all your financial issues. It's just feeding an emotion within that moment. And so we just want to give you an empowerment to do so. And so there's these two sentences that I just absolutely love. I heard them on a documentary one time, and I've been incorporating them into these talks. The first one is, it says, "I want it, but I can't have it." So I want you to think about, if you're listening to this and you think that I'm telling you to go on this diet, to take away all the junk food, to take away all the candy, to take away all the sweets and all the things that you're doing. And now, all of a sudden, as soon as you make that decision, what's going to happen is that every single one of your friends is going to be having a party. And they're going to be bringing all of the food that you're not supposed to have, and you're going to be going to these parties, and you're going to be miserable. The reality is, though, is that once you can start walking in that, you're going to get there, you're going to say, I just went on this diet, and you're going to think about me, and then you're going to say, if I eat that, then I'm going to have these repercussions. I want it so bad, but I promised myself I wasn't going to have it. It's kind of like if you are with a child at a grocery store, and I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, and you say no 10 times, and finally you give in because it's enough nagging. You're doing that to yourself when it comes to that. So saying that you want it but you can't have it is giving all of the control back into the environment. And we want to take back that control. And so the sentence I want you to write down is, I can have it, but I don't want it. I can have it, but I don't want it. And I want you to realize the power that is in that sentence. Because what that's telling us is that you know listen, you can have whatever you want. If we left here today and I got in my car and I drove home, I could stop at 16 different fast food restaurants on my way home, and I could eat all of it. I could go into the grocery store and I could get all the sweets and all the candies. I could get all the cupcakes and I could eat it all. I can do literally whatever I want. And so can you. But do I want to? I know in my brain what that effect is doing to my health, to my energy, to my mindset and everything. So I know I can have it, but I decide I don't want it. There's things in my life that just are not allowed to come into it. If you go to my house, I don't have snacks. I don't have things because I know that if it's there, I'm going to eat it. So let's remove the temptation. And so if you are the person that has the candy drawer, if you're the person that stocks up with the Diet Coke and the chips on the way home from work before anybody even knows that you're eating it, because then you toss it out the window or you stop at the whatever. The parking lot eaters, the car eaters, the secret candy drawers in your closet eaters. I'm talking to you. I want you to empty that stuff out. I want you to put sticky notes. I mean, literally sticky notes everywhere that say, I can have it, but I don't want it. Especially if you're someone who you've got a spouse and they're not totally on board with this nutrition thing yet. If you've got kids that they're not totally on board with this yet, you've got to start making those changes. And so what I used to do is I used to just sticky note on things. I can have it, but I don't want it. I can have it, but I don't want it. I've even had people, as they're leaving work, set their reminders that they, hey Siri, and then they'll set it for remind me not to go to McDonald's when I leave work. And so as soon as they pull out of the parking lot, this thing pops up and it says, you're not supposed to go to blah, blah, blah. Or remind me that I can have it, but I don't want it. Wherever your weakness is, make sure that you build strength and you build walls to be able to overcome those weaknesses. And so that's number one. I want you to really, truly write that down. I can have it, but I don't want it. And start living by that sentence. There's three main levels that we're going to talk about today. Really one main level that I'm going to talk about, but there are three levels that I teach in my office. The first one is the core plan. The second one is the advanced plan, and the third one is maximize metabolics, which I'll talk about. That's the blood work, the specific stuff that I found when I started working with my mom. The first one is the core plan. The core plan is where if you are just trying to eat healthy, if you're trying to raise a family with nutritious, organic, healthy foods, this is the place that you want to park. The next plan is the advanced plan, and the advanced plan is for people that want to lose weight, they want to reverse diseases, they want to potentially restore their body to remove medications from their lives, and they want to see just a total health transformation. The advanced plan is where you really want to go into. The third thing is maximize metabolics, which I'll go into at the end, but I don't say that this is for everyone, especially if you're the person coming from living the fast food lifestyle and you're trying to trickle in. Jumping into a very personalized blood work and urine analysis is not the place to start. I want to see you start eating real food first and spend the money and configuring what that looks like for you. So we've got the core plan, we've got the advanced plan, and we've got the most important, but not for everybody, which is the maximize metabolics. So three big changes that we're going to do when it comes to any of the plans, mostly the advanced plan. And the reason why I focus mostly on the advanced plan during this talk is because it's the scariest. It's the one that people don't think that they can achieve. And so I want to help you kind of break down those barriers as we go through it. So write these down. Three main changes. Number one is you're going to eliminate sugars. Number two is you're going to remove bad fats and replace them with good fats. Number three is you're going to have naturally, organically raised protein versus conventionally raised protein. So you want to start eating the organic grass-fed meats. Now this is a question I always ask when I give this talk. Which of those three do you believe is the hardest? And you probably just said in your head, sugar. And then the next question that I ask is, why is that the hardest? And almost every single time, the whole entire crowd says, because it's in everything. And so here's the thing that I've realized over the past 8 years is that it's not a matter of us not knowing that it's in everything. It's a matter of you choosing to still eat it. Get this, if you came to my house and you looked through my cabinets, if you looked through my refrigerator, you wouldn't find literally anything with extra sugars in it. And so just because it's in everything doesn't mean it's in everything. It's just in everything that they're making the ads for, that they've got the pretty boxes for, that they got all the things going on. And you keep falling for it. And so now it's just time to shift just a little bit, right? Because it is possible, but it is the hardest one to do. And the reason why it's the hardest one to do is because as Americans, we eat about 156 pounds of sugar every single year. 156 pounds of sugar. That is a lot of sugar. And what I think is even worse now is the 63 pounds of high fructose corn syrup that's getting tossed in everything, which is maybe even more because I made this slide a few years ago, so those statistics are probably even higher than what they were before. The problem is that you're just addicted to it because it really truly is in everything. And it's in everything for a reason because it's an addictive food, so it's going to keep you coming back for more. There's this picture that we're going to put up here, and it's a picture of two different brains. One brain is a brain that the parts of the brain are activated when someone eats sugar, and the other picture is a picture of a brain with the parts activated when someone takes cocaine. You'll realize that those two pictures are the same exact activation centers. And so get this, like when you go, like let's say you dropped your kids off at grandma's house. And you get your kids back and you say they have a sugar high because grandma just gave them all the cookies and all the candies and all the things to eat. They really literally do have a sugar high. And so this is affecting the type of brain. So when I see people go on a sugar cleanse, a sugar detox, a sugar diet, I see people going through the night sweats, they go through the shakes, they go through the irritability, they go through the angriness. And it's really truly like getting someone to come off of a drug. And it's even more readily available than the street drugs that are out there. So this is something that's gonna take some time. I believe water is your very, very, very best friend. We're supposed to be drinking half of our body weight in ounces of water every single day. Not only does that help us with our cravings, it helps us with our wanting to eat, but it's also going to help flush toxins out of our body and get the cells ready. If you want to know more about this picture that I posted up there, I actually ripped it off of, it's a documentary called Fed Up, and so that's a really amazing documentary to go and watch, all about obesity and sugar and all the things that you can do to start making some changes. We also know that your cells in your body, cancer cell, if you have cancer cells, which most people have cancer cells, it's just a matter of whether your body can kill them off or not. Cancer cells have 16 times the amount of receptors on them for sugar. And so what I think about is I think about this monster with 16 extra arms that's reaching out into your bloodstream, and it's just pulling all the sugar that you're taking in. And literally when you're putting sugar in a cancer tumor cell, what that's doing is it's like pouring gasoline onto a fire, and it just explodes. So we've got to be very, very conscious. And so what I like to think about, like when I'm going to go and eat sugar or when I'm getting that like weird craving, I think about like that monster eating the sugar and growing tumor cells. And so that kind of deters me and stops me from doing that. So I'm very visual, and I have to like make these pictures in my head in order to succeed on some of the things that we're doing. One of the things that I want you to become is I want you to be a label reading ninja. I believe that if ninjas, they are so super skilled at everything that they do, they understand what's going on, but they're stealth, and so they don't make a big deal out of it. And they just go in, they know exactly what they want, and they go in and they get out. And so number one is, write this down. So I want you to start worrying about the ingredient types more than the amounts. And so this is where back in the old days when I'd have all my stuff out here, I would have a bag of Doritos, and I'd flip it around, and on the back is that white box. It's the nutrition facts box. And I go and look, and it talks about the fats and the carbs and the proteins and the sugars and all the things. And I ask audience members, what on this can you tell me about? And they're like, well, you want to have the numbers to be low, you want the fat to be low, you want the carbs to be low. And so what I've realized is that when people look at items, all they're looking for is the lowest amount of numbers on that. The problem is that nobody can tell me what all the ingredients are in food items. And so instead of looking at those boxes of the nutrition facts, I want you to start looking at the actual list of ingredients. So worrying about what's actually in there. Beware of questionable marketing. Just because it says that it is natural, just because it says that it's organic, doesn't mean squat. So really, look at the packaging. If it says organic, if it says natural, okay, let me do a cross-check and see what the actual ingredients are, because that'll tell you everything. So go back in there, the ingredients, and check out and see what's going on. I want you to make sure that you're staying away from artificial sweeteners. I've got a really cool story. I have an aunt who I hadn't talked to in like 10 years. So this was about 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And I hadn't talked to her since I was 21. So at this time I was 31. And I was going, she lives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was going to Florida for the 4th of July. I was going to spend a few days in Miami, and then I would be in Fort Lauderdale for a few days. And so I messaged her on Facebook. I was like, hey, I'm going to be here. I would love to meet up with you. And so we met up for lunch. I remember going to the first restaurant, and I ordered a water with lemon, and she got her iced tea with lemon. And as soon as our drinks came, she looked at me and she's like, don't judge me. This is my thing. And she picks up the pink packets out of the middle, like 2 or 3 of them, rips it open, pours it into her iced tea, and starts to drink it. She's like, I know that this is probably against everything that you guys teach. She follows us on Facebook, so she got to see everything that's going on. I know that this is probably against everything that you guys teach, but this is my one thing. And this is a woman who, she does half marathons. She runs every single day. She does yoga. So she's very, very fit into health and into nutrition, but that was her thing. And at that time, I was like, it's okay, don't worry about it. I really didn't know her, so I didn't know if I was going to love her or not. So I didn't even, mess up time to like pour into her a little bit. Turns out, though, that we hit it off and we've become really good buddies. I actually went home from that trip. I went out to Trader Joe's and I bought a box of stevia packets, and I sent them to her with a card, and I said, if you want to remember your kids' names and not be wearing a diaper when you're 70, throw that stuff away and switch it out for this. And so she did. She had to like wean herself off. She'd do a half a packet of stevia, half a packet of the pink stuff, and just kind of until she could totally wean off of that. What I think is really cool is that within that process, she ended up losing 10 pounds. And again, this is a woman who did not need to lose 10 pounds, but she had 10 pounds really of toxic fat tissue that was stuck around her organs, and those artificial sweeteners allow those toxic fat cells to cling around your organs. And so if you can get rid of those, allow the body to start healing, you're going to shed pounds without even really having to try. So maybe this is your one thing that you have to do, is to start getting away from the diet sodas and the diet drinks and the aspartame and the pink and the yellow and the blue packets, and start moving towards more natural things. Look for minimal ingredients. My number one rule when it comes to, after I look at the label and I look at the ingredients, nutrition facts, I want as minimal amount of ingredients as possible. And so my rule is 5 or less. Unless I know, like if it's a bunch of spices, that counts as one ingredient. I have to be able to know exactly what's in there. Another thing is look for whole food ingredients. We like to say, if you can't read it, don't eat it. Right? So if you can't pronounce it, it's probably some chemical that you're not supposed to be ingesting in the first place. The more foods that you buy without any labels on them, the better it is. So they got these new things out now. They're called fruits and vegetables, that most people are supposed to be eating them. It's actually in the produce section right when you walk into the grocery store. They're like green and red and yellow. There's some purple mixed in there. Those are the things that you want to be eating mostly, and then dabble in some of the other things. Check every single label on every single thing that you buy. Please, 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 please do not assume that just because it says that it's organic, it doesn't have the stuff that you're trying to stay away from. I remember back in the day when I was learning how to cook healthy, we were doing this challenge and we weren't supposed to have any sugar. And so I went to Trader Joe's and I was going to make this like chicken soup, chicken and vegetable soup. And so I went and I got the chicken broth at Trader Joe's. And I thought just because I was at Trader Joe's, everything would have been totally okay to do. And it was organic. And so I get home, and this is like 10 years ago, so bear with me. I was like, how do you even make chicken broth? Like, how does that even happen? And so I wanted to look at the ingredients, and lo and behold, like one of the second or third ingredients was sugar. And who would have thought that there was sugar in chicken broth? I obviously didn't. You're probably not thinking that there was either. And so here's an assignment for you, is to go into your pantry today and look at all the stuff that's in there and start setting aside all the things that have sugar in the ingredients. I'm not talking about like 2 grams of sugar in the nutrition facts. I'm talking about actually in the ingredients list. There's a difference there. Another one of the big things, and this is just a totally blank statement, is do not drink diet sodas. Period. There's not much more I have to say about that. It just is what it is. The problem is that you have a 2.89 times more likely chance to develop Alzheimer's disease when you're drinking these diet sodas. You've also got a 2.96% chance higher of going through a stroke because of drinking Diet Cokes or diet sodas, excuse me. I had a patient who struggles with MS. And I remember she came in and she got really good results in the beginning, and she was making the way, and she was starting to heal. She actually got to get rid of her cane, got out of her wheelchair, and was walking and functioning and doing better. And then all of a sudden, symptoms started to creep back up, and I was like, hey, listen, like what's changed in the last couple weeks? And she's like, well, nothing. And I'm like, really? Like, how's the diet? Like, are we sticking with the things that we talked about? And she's like, well, I missed Diet Coke, so I started adding in 1 Diet Coke a day on my way home from work. And I was like, listen, like, let's just do an experiment. Give me 2 weeks. Don't drink any diet soda, and let's just see what happens. She comes in 4 days later, and she's like, everything's back to normal again. I can function the way that I was supposed to. See, the problem is with these artificial sweeteners is that these things are like atomic bombs going off on your nervous system. And so as soon as you ingest them, it's like these bombs going off, and your body just cannot react to it. And so we really want to make sure that you're understanding that. And so when you want to have that craving for the diet soda or the diet drink, like just think of bombs going off in your body, and it's not a good feeling to have. I want to talk about one of my most favorite supplements that we have. This has been my #1 favorite since the beginning. It's also one of those things where I talk about, hey, if you don't know where to start when it comes to supplementation, this is the place to start. It just covers everything. It's greens first. It's stuff that you'll put directly into your water. You can put it in your water. You can put it in your morning shake, your afternoon shake. I like that either way, either just plain in the water or also in the shake. But what this is going to do is a whole bunch of things. It's going to increase your energy levels. It's going to help with your immune system. It's going to help with your pH levels. It's going to help with weight loss. It's going to help with digestion. It's going to help with your sugar cravings. And so if you're that sugar addict that's out there, this is the product for you. And this is something that I would implement every single day and just start carrying it with you. It's a taste that you have to get used to a little bit, and it is green water if you're doing it that way. So like just detach your mind from like how it looks and all that stuff, because it really, really, truly is good for you. It's got this product in there. It's called quercetin. Quercetin is amazing, amazing, amazing supplement. They actually use quercetin in the Greek blood tests that they do when patients have cancer, and they want to see what type of products are going to be fought off with the cancer. And they go up towards the chemotherapies, they go against the radiation, they go against all kinds of other natural supplements. Quercetin comes up in the top 10% almost every single time. And so my thought process is if it can fight cancer when it's there, what's it doing in your body before it's even detected? It's probably fighting it before you even know that it's fighting it. And so this is just something that I think should be a daily supplement for people to be in their diet. Okay, so this part here is all about the grains. And so this is where I usually start to see people start getting a little bit restless in their seats, to get a little bit mad about what I'm about to say. But I just want you to understand that I'm not taking anything away from you. This is all your decision. You can still have whatever you want. If you were to actually go out to dinner with me, even after watching this, and you ordered all the bread, all the French fries, all the pizzas, all the things that I'm telling you not to, that's your choice. Because what I've learned is that what you're eating does not affect my health, and it doesn't affect my body. And so I still want to give you the information and allow you to make that choice. And so one of the biggest questions is what about grains? What should I be cutting out? And so a grain is moving into the bread topic. So raise your hand if you're the bread lover, which is everybody. So what do we cut out? We cut out wheat, rye, white flour. We cut out pasta. We cut out rice, all rices. If you're this is like we're sliding into like deep into the advanced plan. There's absolutely no grain allowed in the advanced plan. Not even the kind that you get from the most ancient place in the whole wide world. We want to stay away from grains. Grains actually increase inflammation, and inflammation, I believe, is the root cause of all disease. And so when we're eating grains, we're causing inflammation. Inflammation is creating more disease as time goes on. And so cut these things out. There are some things that you can start supplementing or substituting for your normal breads. Ezekiel bread is my favorite, but it is still bread. It does follow the biblical principles in Ezekiel. I think it's Ezekiel 4:9 tells you how to cook bread. So it does follow those principles. The grains are alive still, so they're not processing them as much as they are for other things. However, it is still a grain, and grains are still going to create inflammation. So this is something that I have as a treat, not something that I have on a daily basis. So this is not something that you should be having on a breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing. This is something that's like maybe once a week, maybe once every other week, or like something that you plan out. If you're on the advanced plan, it's an absolute no-no. The next thing is quinoa and farro. We want to talk about quinoa. Everybody say, in your own home, everybody say quinoa. Okay, it is not quinoa. It's very confusing, but if you're that guy at the restaurant and you're like, I want the quinoa kale salad, the waitress is going to laugh at you, and I might laugh at you, so practice that before you go in. It's quinoa. This is a rice substitute. And then we've got farro. I actually don't know this one. Some people say farro and some people say farro, and so I'm going to let you figure that one out. I like the quinoa better. The farro is just kind of starting to come out a little bit more. For me, it's a little bit too thick and a little bit too heavy, where the quinoa is a little bit more of a lighter, poppier type of a rice substitute. Again, not okay for you to have this on the advanced plan, but something that you can start implementing in the core plan. A couple substitutes for this is we've got coconut flour, we've got almond flour, we've got walnuts, we've got pecans. Any kind of nut you can make into a flour, you can make breads. And so you can actually go into your Align Your Health book. If you don't have that, let us know. We can get you a copy of that. But you can go into there, and in the back of that, they have recipes for pancakes and muffins and breads, and it's all made out of these different flours. You can even go on to Pinterest. Pinterest should be probably your new best friend. You can look up either advanced plan breads, or you can look up paleo breads or keto breads, and there's going to be tons of recipes that pop up. And so it's not a matter of not having it, it's a matter of just seeking it out differently than you would before. And so the next question I get is, what about dairy? Can I have my cheese? Can I have my milk? Can I have all my things? This is coming to you from a person who grew up on milk. I would have a glass of milk with every single meal. It's just what we did. It was skim milk. It was not organic. I think it was Dean's or whatever it was. We didn't know much about nutrition back in the day. We did see chiropractor. My uncles were chiropractors. My aunts and uncles were chiropractors. We did get adjusted. We knew that part of it. But nobody took the time to teach us about nutrition until I was in chiropractic school and Dr. James was out of chiropractic school. And so dairy, I used to have this stance of like, no dairy ever, never ever have it. It's bad for everybody, which I still believe that. However, I know that if you can find a very good source of dairy, so something like your grass-fed dairies, locally raised grass-fed dairies. If you're in the St. Charles area, there's a farm called Allgrass Farms. It's right off of 31 in West Dundee. It's one of my favorite farms and locations to get really good grass-fed meat, really good dairy, and you can even get raw milk there as well. They're really, really awesome. So what can you have? We also know that goat cheese and goat milk is actually better for you because it's closer to your DNA, so your body's not going to react to it as much as it would to a cow's milk, which is really just you're ingesting another animal's milk, which we are the only animal that ingests another animal's milk. So I want you to kind of let that toss around in your head. But if you're still in the milk kick, if you're still in the dairy kick, grass-fed organic is your bare minimum standard of engagement. Grass-fed organic cheese, grass-fed organic butter, grass-fed organic milk. If you're doing the milk thing, we want you to keep it full fat. The reason why you want to have full fat is because anytime they're taking fat out of something, they're adding sugar into it because fat equals flavor. And so we want to make sure that if we know that they're taking the fat out, we know what they're putting back in with that. So just sticking in with fat. There's a common misconception that fat makes you fat, but the reality is that fat's also helping your body heal. It's helping you burn fat. Really good fat is helping you burn fat and helping you energize a better way than doing the low-fat diet. And so we've got some substitutes that I want you guys to know about also. We've got coconut milk, we've got almond milk, we've got cashew milk, things like hemp milk. Oat milk is a new cool thing now. I personally like to make my own cashew milk. The reason why I choose cashew is because it's so simple. I take a cup of cashews, I soak it in water overnight in the refrigerator, take it out of the refrigerator, strain the cashews, rinse them off. I put the strained and rinsed off cashews into the blender. I have a Vitamix that I use, and so I put in 1 cup of soaked overnight cashews into 7 cups of water. Make sure you put the lid on, and then you put it on high for about 30-45 seconds, and there's your cashew milk. One question I get is how long does that last for? I usually drink it in about 2 to 3 days just because of my shakes and everything that I'm doing. So I don't know like longevity. If you want to try to go weeks with it, I would stick to trying to use it up as quickly as possible because there is no preservatives in that. It's literally just cashews and water. If you want to get fancy, you can toss in some vanilla in there. It'll sweeten it up a little bit, but that's my go-to. Almond milk, you can do that too, but the difference with that is that you have to actually strain it because it gets a little bit pulpy. And that's just a step that I don't like to take. I go by the keep it simple, stupid process, and so this is just easy for me to go through that. Okay, if you don't get anything else that I've said today, this is the number one. If you're someone who eats animal products, so you're a meat eater, listen up. You have got to change your source of protein. There's just no question about it. We're gonna say, if it's beef, we want it to be grass-fed. If it's fish, we want it to be wild-caught. If it's pork, we want it to be pasture-raised. If it's chickens, we want it to be pasture-raised. All organic. The closer to knowing the source you can get, the better it's going to be, which is why I love finding really good local farms, like All Grass Farms here in West Dundee. So grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, wild-caught fish. Those are 3 main deals we want to go to. So this is the other part. It's usually when the men start getting mad at me because I start telling them what type of meat they can and cannot eat. So if you can stick to the grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish, free-range chicken, pasture-raised chicken, that's the place to go to. What we want to do is start staying away from things. Number 1 on the list is something that I have, again, kind of loosened my reins a little bit on this. But the number 1 thing is pork. The reason why is because pork does not have sweat glands, and so the toxins stay in the meat. So this includes things like pork ribs, it includes your ham, it includes prosciutto, anything that comes from a pig that I don't know the names of. If it's coming from a pig, this is included in that. The only exception that I have for that is if you know that that pig is being fed well, meaning that there's no toxins, there's no things that it's being fed poorly. The reason why I changed this view is because I had a conversation with the farmer at All Grass Farms, and they were like, well, these guys don't have any toxins going into them, so the toxins aren't staying in there. And so I agree with that. So if you're going to get a good source, I still don't think it's something that you want to have as a dynamic point of your meals. The next thing I want you to think about is processed meats, so your lunches, your lunch meats. This is where we want to stay away from that stuff. It's gotten better since I first started doing this talk. Before, there was one company that made really good lunch meat, and that was it. And now you can go to Trader Joe's, and you can go to Fresh Time, and you can go to some other places and find some really good organic, nitrate-free, nitrite-free lunch meat. But what I kind of want to gross you out a little bit too. Make you think about it, because I know that like when you go into the lunch meat packet and you go in there and there's this like clear, filmy, weird stuff on the meat, and nobody really knows what it is, but we all just kind of eat it anyway. And so I just want you to think about that, and just kind of get a little bit grossed out, because I would rather have you go and buy a whole chicken, season it and cook it and put it in the oven, and then slice up the chicken or slice up the turkey and eat that as your lunch meat than having somebody else do it. It takes just as much time. It's not that hard. And at least you know what exactly is going into it. There's no preservatives and things in there. All right, so the next one that we want to talk about is shellfish. Shellfish are bottom eaters, which means that they graze the bottom of the ocean floor. And so they also eat all the stuff, all the leftovers. They eat poop. And so I heard a saying once, and it says, you are what you eat. And I like to say, you are what you ate. And so if we live by that saying, if we're eating shellfish, then technically we're poop, right? It's kind of a stretch, but go with me here. Okay, so even more than them eating poop is that there's heavy metals in there, things like arsenic and things that we really, once it gets into our body, we can't really get rid of. And so what does that include? That includes things like crabs and lobsters and oysters and shellfish and all the things that, clams, mussels, scallops, all that stuff. Here's another point. Like, I'm not saying don't ever have this ever in your life. Just know your sources. Like, for me, I remember Dr. James and I went to San Francisco a few years ago, and I had been on a no meat diet for like 6 years at this point. And we went to San Francisco. We had like a brother-sister outing, and then we rode the bikes over the bridge. We ended up over in South Salito, which is an awesome little town on the other side of San Francisco Bridge. And we went to the seafood restaurant, and I wasn't sure what I was going to eat. And this tray of lobsters and crabs and all kinds of shellfish walked by me. And I was like, I'm going to eat some crab today. And James was like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And so I got the crab and I got butter and I ate the thing and I indulged in it and I loved it. And I haven't had any of that since. So that's probably been about 3 or 4 years. A couple years ago, I went to Boston, and my best friends and I, when we get together, we go on like food hunts. We go on like the food crawls. And this was one of the things where we got to find the best lobster roll in the city of Boston. And so if you're wondering, I know exactly where that is. I can help you out there. But I got to see the lobster being taken off of the boat to bring into the restaurant. And that's the kind of the lobster that I ate. I'm not going to Red Lobsters in restaurants here in the Midwest and eating this stuff. I'm staying closer to the sources. And so I'll do that kind of thing when I go on vacation. But you won't see me doing that while I'm here in town. The next question is, who likes tilapia? That's like a really big type of fish that we see a lot. It's one of the cheapest fishes that's out there, and the reason why it's so cheap is because it's farm raised. They make a whole lot of it, and they don't feed the fish well. If you've ever seen a fish farm, it literally looks like a bunch of above ground swimming pools, and they have hundreds, if not thousands, of fish in one swimming pool. And I always think about, I had a fish tank when I was younger, and there would be times where I didn't clean the tank for a couple days, and it would be fine when I went to bed, and then when I woke up in the morning, it was completely black, right? And so I'd have to go in there and have to scrape it off, clean it up, and make sure the chemical setting was okay. And so I think about that with these fish farms. If that was so hard for me to do with one fish in there, what type of chemicals are they needing to use in these pools to make sure that the environment is clean and sterile and so that they can grow, which is great. However, those chemicals are being absorbed by the fish, and that's being eaten by you. So we want to stay away from that as much as possible. Another big, huge question that we get is, what about protein? What kind of protein should I be eating? Where should I go with that? So we want as close to nature as we can get. If it is a dairy product, we want it to be grass-fed. We want it to be undenatured. We want it to be organic. We want it to be just high-quality stuff. You can go to these like big gym stores, and you can get these big, huge, massive protein jar boxes, and they're like $25. And then like you come to us, and it's like this little tiny thing, and it's $40. And so what's the difference there? Well, the difference is quality. You get what you pay for. And so if you want to pay for a little bit more on the front end to have high quality nutrients going into your body, then this is the place to go. Couple tidbits for protein. Females, you want to be eating about 15 grams of protein per meal. And males, you can go into about 30 grams of protein per meal. If you eat excess protein, so let's say I started eating like 30 grams of protein at every single meal, that's like double of everything that I should be doing. And so my body's going to take that protein and it's going to turn it into sugar. And so now you're kind of doing an opposite effect of what you want to be doing when it comes to feeding yourself. So in our office, we have 3 different types of protein with a few different flavors within that. We have our grass-fed whey protein, which is really good for almost everybody. We've got our perfect plant protein, and then we've got our Pure Path bone broth protein. A couple differences. Let's go with the difference between whey protein and the bone broth protein. Whey protein is still staying in that dairy realm, and so if you have any dairy issues, any reaction digestively when it comes to dairy, probably want to stay away from the whey protein, where the bone broth protein is getting it from the collagen, it's getting it from the bone broth that's made with that. So there's actually no dairy in the bone broth protein. I love bone broth protein when I'm going into that realm. It's good for your hair, it's good for your skin, it's good for your nails, it's good for your joints, it's good for your digestive system. It's going to actually help heal the gut lining. And then for the people that are completely animal product free, or they want to go with a plant-based protein, we do have that as well, and it is an amazing source of protein for you. Okay, now we got to talk about fats. The reason why this is important is because, listen, we've got omega-3s, we've got omega-6s, and we've got omega-9s. Those are the main ones that people talk about. Really, we don't really talk about omega-9s too much, so we're going to focus on omega-3s and omega-6s. You want your omega-3s and omega-6s to be about a 2-to-1 ratio. So you want about two omega-6s to every 1 omega-3. So it should be right in there. The problem is that in America, we have a ratio that's probably 20-to-1 or 50-to-1 with the standard American diet, which means that you have way too much omega-6 fatty acids and not enough omega-3s. And so when there's too much of a good thing, it's not always a good thing, right? And so we know that too much omega-6 is actually going to increase inflammation, which is why most people need to have more omega-3s to actually start to drive down the inflammation and allow your body to heal. So when it comes to good fats versus bad fats, we've got the bad fats, which is your hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, things like soybean oil, things like vegetable oil, things like cottonseed oil. And then we've got your trans fats, which is like your margarine and your synthetic butter, so the country crocks, and I can't believe it's not butters, and those types of things. And then we've got the rancid oils, like they're bad out the gates. So we've got corn oil, canola oil, which I don't know if you knew this or not, but canola oil, there's no like canola plant anywhere in the world. Canola stands for Canadian oil low acid. Canola got very, very popular probably 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even longer than that. Dr. Oz had a special, talked about canola oil being low in fat, being low in everything. They actually wiped out the stores because everybody thought it was going to be a miracle thing. But it's just not good for you. It's something that you want to stay away from. So if you have canola oil, maybe that's your one step. You're just going to toss it in the trash can today. Another good thing, so when we move over to the good fats, we've got extra virgin olive oil. Totally am a huge, huge fan of extra virgin olive oil. However, I never, ever, ever cook with it because extra virgin olive oil has a super low heat tolerance where we want to be cooking with things with a higher heat tolerance. So I'll cook my food, and then you'll often see me drizzling my food with the olive oil on top. So it's not being cooked, but I'm still getting the benefits of that. I most often cook with coconut oil. We know that coconut oil has a much higher heat tolerance, so it's going to keep the food out of that rancid part. The oil's not going to break down, so if the oil's not breaking down, then your food's not breaking down either, so you're not losing any nutrients. We often get questions about avocado oil and grapeseed oil. Those two are in my sometimes cook with them category, mainly because they have a little bit more omega-6s than I would like. And so, like I said earlier, most people don't need help getting the omega-6s. So those other ones are going to help with the omega-3 increase. Raw nuts and seeds, you want to make sure that you're not buying roasted or cooked nuts and seeds in the grocery store because oftentimes they're cooking in the bad oils that we just talked about. You can go get, for me, one of my favorite treats is I'll have a handful of raw cashews. I'll put some coconut oil in a pan. I'll toss the cashews in there. I'll lightly toast them a little bit. Throw some salt and pepper in there, and for me, that's like popcorn or like a bag of chips. And so I get it just crispy enough to enjoy, and that's one of my treats that I like to have. We've already talked about butter. We've talked about cheese. We've talked about the types of meats that you should be having as well. Here's some of the benefits when it comes to having an omega. It's going to help with your brain function. It's going to help you think better. It's going to help you fight depression. It's going to help you stabilize your blood sugars. It's going to help you lower your blood sugar, lower your blood pressure, lowers cholesterol and triglycerides. It helps to prevent cancers and promotes healthy skin, joints, and also decreases inflammation. So I just think that everybody should be on that. And so some people are going to want to be on the optimal omega, which is it's good for almost everybody. But if you're trying to reverse disease, if you're trying to get inflammation to be driven down big time, there's a higher dose omega-3 that I would kind of pick for you in that realm. Here's my other favorite thing and why omegas are so important. We've got when you look at a cell, we've got this, it's called a double lipid bilayer. So there's 2 layers of fat around every cell in your body. And so what happens is these cells, as you're eating bad food, the toxins go in and penetrate it almost like an arrow is going in there, and it gets stuck. I've never hunted before, but I'm just imagining deer hunting. When you shoot the arrow goes in there, and it's not easy to pull back out. It kind of stays in there for a purpose. Same kind of thing with these toxins. They get stuck in the double lipid bilayer, the 2 layers of fat, and you can't get it out. Or like a Chinese finger trap, the more you pull, the more it gets stuck, right? And so omegas, eating really good omega-3 fatty acids is going to help to heal that. It's going to help to kind of open up a doorway for those toxins to leave. But the toxins get super cozy in your cells. So it's kind of I think about like a rainy day when you're at home in your bed, you're nice and cozy in there, and it's nice and warm, and then you're supposed to get up and go to work, but you just want to stay there. And so that's what these toxins do. They just want to park it. And so with the combination of taking a really good omega-3, opening up the cells, opening up the doorways, allowing the toxins to start to get removed, then comes in our detox system, which is a 2-part system. The first part is your cell detox, which the number 1 component of that is glutathione. Glutathione is something that's already made in your body. It is 5,000 times more powerful than vitamin C itself. And so it's just a powerful antioxidant that's going to help to decrease all kinds of things in your body. That's the number 1 ingredient in the cell detox. In the body detox, we've got activated charcoal. And so that's like a binder. It's something that's going to kind of grab everything. And so this is what I like to think about. I like to think about your cell detox. You take this in the morning, about 30 minutes after you wake up or before you eat, just a nice window before any other supplements. You're going to take that, it's going to be doing its thing through the day, and I think about Pac-Man going around and collecting all the little bubbles and all the little bad guys, and kind of puts them in the box there, right, and holds them. And then you take the body detox right before you go to bed at night, and that is activated charcoal, which to me is like that old school scientific magnet, like that red with the like the horseshoe magnet. That's the thing that's going to kind of go around and like collect all the toxins, and then you're going to get that stuff out in the morning. And so that's a breakdown of what the detox system looks like. One of the next biggest things I believe is D3 combined with probiotics. The reason why we combine it with probiotics is because I think of probiotics as like the excavator. So it kind of goes into your gut lining and kind of separates a spot, because the gut lining is where your vitamin D is actually absorbed in your body. So this is going to help to reduce inflammation. It's going to boost your immune system. It's going to help regulate your blood pressure. It's going to help to regulate oxidative stress and toxicity, help with your heart issues. Another thing, people are like, well, I don't need to do this because it's summertime or I live in a sunny state. You know, for us, I live in Chicago area, and the amount of time that I'm outside with 80% of my skin exposed is very minimal to the requirement that it says that we're supposed to have for me to absorb vitamin D3. Now the problem with that is that a lot of times, like if I were to go lay out at the pool, if I go home and take a shower, the vitamin D actually gets wiped off your skin because it takes about 24 hours to actually be absorbed into your skin. So supplementing with vitamin D is the best way to go. Here's the thing, is that you guys just listened to almost an hour of me spewing to you about food and about supplements, about what to do and what not to do. If you don't take action on the things I told you about, there's a less likely chance that you're going to go out there and create an impact in your health. And so there's this guy that you're seeing on the screen right now, and he's this big green monster. We actually named him the Lodi monster. What that means is the law of diminishing intent. So you have this really good idea, like, oh, I love what she said about diet soda. I love what she said about writing out on sticky notes that you can have it, but you don't want it. I love what she said about not drinking diet drinks. I love what she said about changing the type of meats that I eat. If you don't go and start making those changes right now or tomorrow, the chances of you making those changes as the days go on are much smaller. And so we want to create impact as quickly as possible. And so I told you to go in there and start a couple of the things that you know that you can implement as soon as possible, and then start checking those things off of there as you go. If you're sitting out there, if you're a patient of ours, or if you're not, there's also an opportunity. We're going to make sure that we have up on the slide our website. So if you're watching this and you're like, I want to get the supplements, but I don't live where you guys live, you can actually go directly to our website and order the supplements that you want to right there. But if you're a patient, if you're in our office, you're actually going to get either 15 or 20% off of any products that we do. If you want to just buy one or two things, I'm going to actually give you 15% off in the office. But if you buy 3 or more products, you're going to end up getting 20% off of your purchase. It's a one-time only purchase. It's not for before, it's not for after, it's for one time. And just mention that you were on this talk, and it's going to expire 1 week from today when you watch this. And so with that being said, I want to talk about one more thing before we wrap this up. The maximized metabolics. What I think about when I think about this is like it's me being able to take an x-ray of your cell. I get to see the inside of that. So if you're a patient of mine, if you come in on the first day, most likely I'm going to be taking a picture of your spine with an x-ray. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want to see what the structure of your spine looks like. I want to see where the damage is. I want to see where your body's healing or not healing, and going from there. And so with this, what we're looking for is 50 different nutrient markers, and I'm going to be able to see it's a blood work and urine analysis. We're looking for vitamin deficiencies, blood sugar imbalances, inflammation, oxidative stress, toxicity. We're looking for GI issues. We're looking for stress hormone imbalances, and we're looking to see what the actual ratio of your fatty acids is. The coolest thing about this is it is all about you. There's zero guesswork involved in this. I get to see exactly what's going on and give you the recommendations that it goes towards. Now, remember back in the beginning of this talk, I talked about my mom going to urgent care and spending thousands of dollars on her blood work, and we literally got zero answers to anything. The thing is that with this, we've got our organics and we've got our fatty acid test. So it's two different tests. One's a blood sample, one's a urine analysis. You're going to actually get the kits to take home. I don't take the urine samples or the blood samples. You do all that stuff at home. You send it in with their packages. The cost for that together is $807 retail value if you were to go onto their website and see what's going on. I didn't go to school to take blood. I didn't go to school to look at people's pee and figure out what's wrong with it. I got into this because my mom got sick, and I want to make sure that nobody else's mom has to go through what my mom went through. And if you are, then you get an answer as soon as possible. If you're a grandpa, if you're a grandma, if you're a mom, a dad, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, you deserve to get some answers and know exactly what's going on. So I get it as close to my cost as possible. The cost of the test is $425. You can go on the Genova website and see what the cost is for that, and you can kind of price compare to other doctors. I'm pretty almost 100% sure that this is going to be your lowest cost that you see. And the reason why I do that is because on March 9th, my mom and I started that raw food diet. And so this picture that you're looking at right now was taken Easter of that same year, so probably within 4 to 6 weeks of starting that diet. We're actually in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. We got to go on the sand dunes and fly the little sand dune kites and experience life. Just last year, she turned 61, and she started doing triathlons with me. And we do, I'll do the runs for her, but she's doing the swimming and the biking. And she's gotten her health back and gotten her body back into shape better than it ever has in her whole entire life. And so I just want to leave you with this real quick. This one last quote is that we use health as a vehicle to create magical moments with our loved ones. And so with that, I just want to thank you for listening. And I know that if you're ready to make a change, you can do it. It's just you have to make the decisions for you, not for anybody else. And know that you can still have whatever you want. So don't be depriving yourself of it. Just make better choices. So I thank you. Go out and be healthy. Peace.